Booga 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 booga! Hey, what's going on, everybody? EnterChazman here, back with another Halloween special. If you don't know about me, I tend to start to celebrate my Halloween time at about September, and what is it? September 3rd. So we are getting very close. If you don't know about my taste in scary movies, I don't just like scary movies just to outright just be scared. I also like my movies tend to be kind of weird and wacky and to kind of throw curveballs at me. That's why if you've kind of looked at my last few movies I've talked about, more recently, I would say the last few I think I talked about was, what was it, Evil Dead Rise, which, again, love the Evil Dead series. Very wacky, very Sam Raimi. You know, I like that. If you know about the channel, you know I like that type of stuff. I also talked about the movie Malignant. If you didn't see that video, that was a very interesting movie. I really enjoyed that movie. That movie was kind of crazy. There's other movies I talked about. 28 Days Later was one. I also talked about the Doom movie with The Rock. So just kind of getting to it. I like my movies not to just spook me, not to just be scary, but I also like my movies to have very wide variety of things they do. I like my movies to go in all sorts of directions. So, kind of getting to that. Once again, starting to get into Halloween season. So, I don't know. For some reason, I have always done September, October. If you don't know, Halloween season, it's my favorite time of the year. Sometime between, September and maybe November. I love that time. Christmas is fine. Again, I don't know. I've always been kind of a dark, brooding kind of a ChazmaN. I like scary movies. I think I get it from my mom, specifically. But okay, so getting to it, let's go ahead and switch on over. So, again, I just watched the movie COBWEB. Now, this movie came out just very recently. It came out, to be exact, it was July 21st, of which, if I'm not mistaken, that was the exact, I don't want to say exact. I'll look it up just to be, yes, so Barbie came out July 21st, so that means Oppenheimer came out. So, very odd. So this movie came out the exact same weekend as Barbie and Oppenheimer. Needless to say, this movie got next to no... I don't know if the marketing was bad or what, or maybe it just got completely overshadowed by those two movies. That's entirely possible. I didn't look into it, but I'm assuming the take for this movie probably wasn't great, seeing as how that's how I watched it was on streaming, basically. It's already, available to be streamed, and not really super surprised by that. I would actually think that places like Vudu, YouTube, other streaming places where people like to kind of consume this type of horror, psychological type movies, those seem like perfect places to actually consume a movie like this. And also, another reason why I got swayed into watching this movie is, if you guys don't know, I really like a YouTube channel called Red Letter Media. I love all of their videos. I've been watching them for quite a few years now, and generally when they recommend something, I almost always will at least look into it. And normally I would say my opinion kind of follows along them. So they kind of I don't know, persuaded me into watching this movie. I think the same thing happened with Malignant, but they kind of brought up the point that it may not have been entirely a bad thing for the movie to come out at the same time as Barbie and Oppenheimer. Surely in the opening take of revenue, that's a bad idea, but ultimately they brought up the idea that maybe it was a good thing for this movie to come out before Halloween, so that when it does come to streaming services, that is where this movie is probably going to make up a large sum of its revenue and take and everything, just to have it just up on Vudu and other streaming places, which I don't entirely disagree with. I think that was a very good point. If you didn't watch Red Letter Media, they were fairly positive on the movie. I would say, to an extent, I am in the same boat. But what do you say we actually start digging in and kind of, I don't know, I can kind of explain the movie to you a little bit. Ultimately, what I'd like for this video to be is for me to try to do my best in my own way to, convey whether you should watch or not watch the movie. Ultimately, I will say I'm not going to spoil anything at first. I would like the first section of this to be non-spoilery, and then I will put something on screen to kind of indicate that click away, if you don't want any spoilers. So kind of digging surface level into the movie. There are quite a few primary characters. I would say, in my opinion, the five main characters is a character named a couple named Mark and Carol. Their son Peter, from you see from the trailers, Peter's the young kid. He ultimately is the main character of the film, and then there are two other characters that are fairly important. Well, one character is important, Miss Divine, who is his teacher at school, substitute teacher, and then there is another young kid who is a fairly big deal, is Brian, and then there's one other character in the movie which I don't want to spoil anything. So overall, what did I think of? I'll start with the characters. I absolutely loved the casting choices for all of these characters. Mark, if you don't know, Mark is played by Anthony Starr, essentially Homelander from the Boys. If you like the Boys and you like Anthony Starr, I think you're gonna like him in this movie. Same thing with the Carol. The Lizzie Kaplan is the actress. She does a fantastic job. She's very creepy. She, in fact, has one of the more scarier scenes in the entire movie, which kind of gets spoiled in the trailers. But she's awesome. I love the dynamic between the mother and the father there. Again, I'll save that for spoilers, but they have a very interesting dynamic, and they play off of each other like really, really well. Miss Divine is a great character played by Cleopatra Coleman. The way she kind of interweaves her way into the story with Peter, who's played by Woody Norman, the main actor, the child actor. Peter and Miss Divine have like a really interesting kind of dynamic that they have going on as well. And then the character Brian, who essentially plays the bully of the movie to Peter. I don't know. He doesn't really bring a heck of a whole lot to, but he gets to bully Peter around a little bit, which it's not really a good horror movie unless you don't have a major bully, I guess. But yeah, I guess kind of touching on that aspect of the bullying aspect. At least the character Peter, who's again is the main kid. The movie starts off super typical of horror movies. There's so many different, I guess you could call them cliches. But I feel like this movie does a good job of, I don't know, making the cliches kind of interesting, or maybe it just does a good job with the cliches, because I feel like that's part of the problem with other horror movies, or other movies in general when it comes to cliches, is they're just not done very well. And I think this movie, to an extent, does a lot of the cliches and typical stuff pretty well. Some of the things that I thought were super typical, I made sure in my notes to totally put it down. But he's like, starts off as like a typical horror movie child. He gets bullied big time. This kid Brian is constantly bullying him. Like the first time he meets him, he trips him like a couple times in this movie, and in one scene totally trips him, makes him break his pumpkin that's made for school. There's that. The kid Peter is typical. He hears and sees things. More specifically coming from the wall. The wall in this movie, I guess you could say, is a character on its own. You can kind of see it on the trailer, but like it starts off as like a typical creature in the wall movie, and it definitely goes places. Other things that kind of add to the idea of it being kind of cliche is it's like a super typical like broken family, kind of dysfunctional household that's going on with Peter, Mark, and Carol, the mom and dad. Peter gets told it's all in his head, don't worry about it. The father, is constantly like it's even interesting because Mark or Anthony Starr like starts off the movie as he almost seems like a very actual good. They both seem like good parents at first, but once the movie starts to go off the deep end, it's so hard to talk about this movie without spoilers. So I'm not quite sure how much longer we'll go without spoilers. But ultimately, I just wanted to. I'll get to whether I recommend it and not recommend it, and then we'll go straight into spoilers. And don't worry, I'll put something on screen or I'll let you guys know. But this was in my opinion, I hope, for me at least personally, I think it's going to become like a go-to Halloween horror movie. Not like the best. I mean, there are obviously other Halloween-oriented horror movies. Um, I mean, obviously Halloween. Trying to think of other ones that I like really enjoy that are like super. This movie is super Halloween themed. There are legit. There's pumpkins. There's pumpkin carvings. There's all sorts of other decorative stuff all around town. There's trick or treaters. I mean, it's a very Halloween themed movie. So I definitely think this will become you know, hopefully this will become a go to movie for other people as well, not just me. But if not, I can ultimately see. That's another weird thing about this movie. I can see a lot of people not super digging it, mainly because of the twists and turns it takes. I'd say about a halfway through the movie, it has one idea that it's going towards, and then it careens off of that track. And then as the movie keeps going, it like careens back. So it's like it's playing with a bunch of different things, and it's hard for me to explain without spoilers. But again, ultimately, loved the characters. Pretty much all of the actors were great. The big bad of the movie, the creature, very interesting what they did with the creature. I ultimately I dug what was going on, what was happening. Ultimately, one thing I did want to get to is just how spooky, how scary is the movie. I will admit it is not the scariest thing I have ever seen. It's got a couple moments that are really good. One again is kind of spoiled in the trailers, but everything else is pretty good. Like it's got a lot of suspense. It does a pretty good job, my opinion, about building up. Now, whether to most people, whether that buildup is ultimately, or whether the heights of the buildup is reached by the movie, I feel like that's going to be kind of up to other people to decide. For me, ultimately, the movie was entertaining enough. It does a pretty good job of doing just about everything I typically like. Again, it's very cliche. I guess it's kind of does the bare minimum of certain horror movies. The movie is just, in my opinion, it's held up majorly by the twists and turns of what happened. So ultimately, I feel like I'm kind of talking in a circle. So what do you say? So I guess ultimately, before we go into that, I just want to say I do recommend this movie for Halloween. I think this is a very interesting, at moments, scary movie. So I don't know. I guess if you're going to go into this movie, don't expect the scariest thing ever. Go into this feeling weird. You're going to get, weird and wacky with it. Again, that's about as much as I can say. So what do you say we go ahead and get into the spoilers for COBWEB? Spoilers! Okay. So, we're going to start getting into the spoilers for Lionsgate's COBWEB 2023. Immediately kind of getting into it. Again, as I was saying before, the movie kind of comes off as a typical monster in the wall movie. And then as the movie kind of continues on, you start to think, oh, is it more of a psychological movie? Is it all in Peter's head? Is it more of a ghost, kind of ghost in the house type thing? And by the end of the movie, it becomes, no, this movie is a legit, there's a monster in the house. And I guess I kind of went straight for that. But yeah, it ends up becoming a monster in the house movie. I guess I'll touch on where the twists and turns happen. So for a large portion of the movie, you kind of think that there are, I don't want to say think, there kind of is a lot of emotional abuse and also physical abuse that's happening in the household between Mark Carroll and their son Peter. Anthony Starr does a great job. He 100% comes off as Homelander again in this movie. He seems like a really good dad at first, and then there comes a point where Peter, due to influence from the creature from the wall, that tells him to stand up for himself to a bully at school, and he ends up pushing Brian the bully downstairs and really hurting him. And due to this, Mark, the dad, the movie just goes off the rails. Like he opens up a hidden hatch behind a fridge and puts his son down there, and the mother is like terrified. And you can see down there's like a hole, and there's chains and everything, and the movie is just like, it's like, what in the heck is going on? And what I mean by the twists and turns is, again, so because of this, when I'm the whole dungeon basically thing that's down in the basement, the movie begins to make you think, okay, so it's everything's in his head because of his abuse and what's happening to him. So he's kind of coming up with his own friend, his own thing going on in Peter's head. But as the movie keeps going on, it does come back to the parents actually being evil, and there ends up being this creature that is in the house. It's his sister, which is, it's totally wacky and totally out there. So I guess what ends up happening in the film is when Peter is born, or before Peter is born, he has a sister. And the sister apparently is completely deformed, totally evil, and completely like a monstrosity. And they never, and I will admit, throughout, it's very interesting, throughout the movie, they never quite answer like how or what is going on with the sister. It's just straight up, his sister was born and is, I guess I was just about to say it, but that's what I think is kind of happening, is his sister is just evil personified. His sister is just like Damien or something, is some sort of just evil being or something. So I'm assuming also what happened is throughout the story there's also this idea that the mother and father are covering up a murder that happens with a girl. And that's another thing throughout the movie that's played with, is that the mother and father are the ones that committed the murder. But I guess they never really answer it. I'm assuming that the daughter is the one that murdered the girl. It's interesting, because now that I'm thinking on it, they don't quite answer. Was it the daughter that murdered the girl simply because it was Halloween time and the girl got too close to the house? And did she murder her just to, because she's evil? Or did the mom and dad murder her because they didn't want her to find out about the daughter, find out what's happening at the house? That's very interesting. I'll be honest, I don't quite know either or. I don't know, if I had to guess, I would say it was the daughter. The daughter had killed the girl, and the parents were like covering up what was going on. But I could also see the other way. I don't know. Due to the little girl being evil throughout, I think throughout the girl's entire life, she's basically being hidden by the parents, and starts off in the basement in a hole, and then eventually gets moved into a door into their room. So that's what basically Peter has been talking to the walls about this entire time, is he's talking to his sister, who's in like a locked room. I guess you kind of see the little door there. It's all kind of fascinating. And that's essentially how the Miss Divine gets incorporated into the movie, is this whole thing going on with Peter. He essentially, is indicating, showing signs of abuse and all sorts of things. And as a teacher, she begins to kind of reach out to the family and want to learn more, and is trying to, help his situation. And I don't know, the parents are super weird and cagey about it. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but kind of getting back to the movie. The movie very much reminds me of a movie like *Malignant*, where towards the end, in my opinion, it kind of totally goes off the rails. With this movie, at the very end, the bully Brian brings his like friends and family to their house to, I'm assuming, attack the family. And at this point, Peter has already kind of killed the mother and father, because he was trying to protect the sister that he thought was normal and was just being abused. Or I guess the sister's name ended up being Sarah, which I literally just looked it up. But yeah, it's like *Malignant*, where at the end, man, Sarah just goes on a massive, brutal killing spree and is like crawling all along the ceiling and everything. And I don't know, the ending for me wasn't the best. It's definitely interesting. It's very, again, I got very reminiscent of *Malignant*, where towards the end I was just like, all right, this is really cool. This isn't the part that I'm going to really remember the most from the movie. For me, most of the stuff I'm really going to take away was that first large portion where you begin to learn about the creature, and you learn more about the parents and how kind of evil or not evil they are. I don't know, those were kind of the things that I think I liked the best. The ending for me was so-so. The movie, in my opinion, really begins to kick into gear in about I think it's almost a half hour in. That's when you really start to think the parents are like evil. And then once the movie hits that mark, that's when the movie, in my opinion, is at its best. And then I don't know. It's weird because again, I loved the movie and I also didn't like parts of it. It to me it definitely kind of sputters out a little bit at the end. It kind of maybe it plays its cards too well. I don't know. Overall, interesting movie. I think again this will be one that I think I watch every now and then during Halloween or spooky time. Loved all the characters, loved the actors. It was great to see Homelander in another movie. I loved him. But yeah, I guess that's shoot. I don't really have a heck of a whole lot more else to say. I enjoyed the movie. I totally recommend it to you guys. If I don't know if you liked a movie like *Malignant* or you like other very artsy kind of horror, I would call this movie. It does some really cool things with the lighting, with some of the camera stuff, like shadows. It gets played with really well here. There's a lot of practical effects, which I really enjoyed. A very interesting movie. I think I ended up looking into it, but a lot of the people that produced it and directed, this is at least for the director, this is a first time directorial thing for him. He's done some Netflix stuff, which is interesting. The writer, or what is it? The writer, is this the guy? I mean, the writers and Seth Rogen apparently helped produce this or something, and the guy who produced it with him, Evan Goldberg, apparently is like best friends with Seth Rogen. So interesting duo. They both worked on this movie. I don't know. Overall, to you guys, I would say I recommend this. It was definitely an interesting watch. I don't know if it's I don't necessarily for other people this may not be a favorite, but I definitely think it's at least worth a watch to get some spooks, kind of see some good acting, see interesting monster, and that's about all I got to say. So I don't know. What did have anyone out there who's seen Cobweb? What did you guys think? I'd love to know down in the comments. Did you love it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you think my taste in scary, spooky movies is bad? I would love to hear if movies like *Malignant* or *Evil Dead Rise* are not tickling y'all's fancy. I don't know. I'm fascinated by these movies that do weird crap, man. I love weird crap. So, anyways, happy Halloween, everyone. This is the first Halloween-oriented special I'm gonna do. I'll probably have some more planned. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for the enterchazman podcast. We are gonna be getting back to working on that in a few days. We took about a month off, so hopefully we can deliver some more wonderful, nice content to you guys. Once again, I'd love to hear if you guys like this movie. Hit me up down in the comments on the socials. Those are on screen. Thank you so much, guys. Keep it spooky. Happy Halloween, everyone, and I will see you on the next enterchazman. So, adios, everybody. I love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Bye, everyone.